Horror games have always been about one thing: making us feel fear. But as graphics and technology keep evolving, horror games are becoming more than just scary. They're becoming realistic. Sometimes too realistic. The lighting, the sound, the environments, everything feels so lifelike that your brain starts to believe it's real. Today, we're looking at 5 upcoming horror games that look so realistic, they might actually be too terrifying to play. Let's get into it. Starting with Silent Hill F. Ever since this game was revealed, horror fans have been completely obsessed with it. And honestly, after seeing the trailers, it's easy to understand why. Most modern horror games rely heavily on darkness, loud jump scares, or monsters constantly chasing the player. But Silent Hill F feels different. It creates fear through atmosphere. The environments somehow look beautiful and horrifying at the same time. At first glance, the towns, flowers, and scenery almost look peaceful. But the longer you watch the footage, the more disturbing everything becomes. The strange creature designs, the empty streets, everything feels deeply unsettling. And one of the biggest reasons people are excited is because Silent Hill games are known for psychological horror. That means the game doesn't just try to scare players with cheap moments. It tries to make them uncomfortable the entire time. And honestly, psychological horror is usually the scariest kind of horror. The visuals also look absolutely incredible. The lighting, textures, and facial animations already feel next generation. Some scenes genuinely look like scenes from a horror movie instead of a video game. And because modern hardware is becoming more powerful, developers can now create environments that feel more realistic than ever before. Which honestly makes horror games even scarier. Because the more realistic a horror game feels, the more immersive it becomes. And Silent Hill F already looks like one of the most immersive horror experiences we've seen in years. Next up is Routine. This game has been in development for years, and every time new footage appears, people immediately talk about how incredible it looks. Routine takes place on a completely abandoned lunar base, which already creates one of the most terrifying settings imaginable. Because when you're alone in space, no one can help you. The environments look absolutely stunning. The lighting, reflections, and attention to detail genuinely feel next generation. Some scenes honestly look photorealistic. But what makes Routine special is the atmosphere. There are no cheap jump scares in the trailers. Instead, the game builds fear through isolation, the empty hallways, the silence, the feeling that something is watching. Everything feels uncomfortable, and because the visuals look so realistic, the immersion becomes terrifying. Watching the gameplay footage already feels stressful, because every door you open could reveal something horrifying, and in space there's nowhere to run. The sound design also deserves credit. The echo of footsteps, the distant mechanical noises, the total silence between them, it all creates constant tension. If the final game delivers on its atmosphere and visuals, Routine could easily become one of the most immersive sci-fi horror games ever made. The Outlast Trials might honestly become one of the most stressful horror games ever created. Unlike traditional horror games, this game feels chaotic. Everything about it is designed to make players panic. The environments feel dirty and disturbing. The enemies feel aggressive. And the sound design makes every moment feel terrifying. What makes Outlast especially scary is the realism. The lighting, the movement, the environments. Everything feels incredibly immersive. And because the game focuses heavily on survival, players constantly feel powerless. You're not supposed to feel strong in Outlast. You're supposed to feel trapped. That's what makes these games so intense. The chase sequences especially look terrifying. The camera movement, the screaming, the fast pacing, everything creates panic. And honestly, panic is one of the hardest emotions for games to create properly. But Outlast seems to understand exactly how to make players feel stressed. The environments also deserve a lot of attention. Every room looks disturbing. Every hallway feels dangerous. And because the game is becoming more visually realistic, the horror feels even more intense. Some scenes genuinely look uncomfortable to watch, which honestly means the developers are probably doing their job very well. Now let's talk about Directive 8020. This game already looks like one of the most cinematic sci-fi horror experiences ever made. It's being developed by the creators of Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures anthology, which means the game is heavily focused on atmosphere, storytelling, and terrifying choices. Directive 8020 takes place in deep space, where a spaceship crew encounters a dangerous alien organism capable of imitating humans. And honestly, that idea alone is terrifying, because players never fully know who they can trust. The trailers already create this constant feeling of paranoia and tension. The dark spaceship environments, the emergency lighting, the creepy silence. Everything feels incredibly cinematic, and visually the game already looks next generation. Some scenes genuinely look like scenes from a big-budget sci-fi horror movie. The facial animations, lighting, and environments all look unbelievably realistic. But the most interesting part is the choice system, because every decision could determine who survives and who doesn't, which means every moment feels dangerous. And if the final game delivers on its atmosphere and storytelling, Directive 8020 could easily become one of the best horror games in years. And finally, Resident Evil 9. This is easily one of the most anticipated horror games in the world right now. Resident Evil games have always been legendary when it comes to horror atmosphere. But Resident Evil 9 looks like it could take realism to an entirely different level. The graphics already look unbelievable. The environments feel dark and realistic. The lighting looks cinematic, and the character models honestly look almost real. But graphics alone aren't what make Resident Evil games terrifying. It's the atmosphere. Resident Evil games are masters at making players feel nervous. Even simple things like opening a door or walking through a hallway can feel stressful. And because the visuals are becoming more realistic, that tension becomes even stronger. The sound design also plays a huge role. Small sounds suddenly become terrifying. Footsteps, doors creaking, monster noises. Everything creates suspense. And honestly, the realistic visuals make those moments feel far more immersive. A lot of fans believe Resident Evil 9 could become the scariest Resident Evil game ever made. And after seeing the early footage, that honestly might be true, because everything about this game already feels cinematic, immersive, and deeply unsettling. And if the final game delivers on expectations, Resident Evil 9 could easily become one of the best horror games of this generation.